This is GIMI Productions on the track.
Hello, this is Case Study QB, and I present to you Political Junkies, where we are going to have fun discussing political topics. All right, and hopefully by the end of this, you will be a more informed voter. So I have Gabe from Florida representing Florida. I got my man Izzy, who's off camera, representing New York. I got John, who's representing Virginia, and I got my man Carlito representing Georgia. All right. So the first topic that we're going to be talking about right now, and this question, I'm going to present it to you in two ways. The first way, Bernie Sanders and Chuck Schumer is trying to agree on decreasing the military spending by 10%. Now, this collaboration between Bernie Sanders and Chuck Schumer, you can go back to when Bernie Sanders got his popularity and he went up against Hillary Clinton. He lost. But the Democrats knew that they had to bring in Bernie Sanders. He had a lot of energy. So what did they do? They brought him onto the Democratic leadership as the outreach chair. And then my personal belief is that Chuck Schumer is kind of stringing Bernie along. So how did he do that? The first thing he did was he endorsed Keith Ellison for DNC chairman. Remember that, guys?
Yeah.
And lately, the latest example of that is when he endorsed Bernie Sanders' plan to decrease the military spending by 10%. But we saw recently it didn't pass. And to me, Chuck Schumer didn't if you're the leader of the Senate, you can put pressure on the other senators to make sure that they vote your way. And you had Kamala Harris voted against this increase. So here's the question. Here's the one way of describing this question. Was it worth it to sell out to the Dems, or should he have stayed in the fight? The other way to ask this question is, what's the long-term ramification of a moderate Bernie for the progressive movement? All right, who wants to take this first?
I could start it off.
Go ahead, Carlito.
I think, well, first of all, with the bill itself, I think it was fine for Bernie to do it because we know it wasn't going to pass, but at least it put names to votes. And then as far as Kamala Harris, any illusion that we had that she will even make a symbolic vote for the progressives out the window. She's still trying to be VP, so she's going to, we see her true colors there. Because even in a vote that she knew wasn't going to pass, if she didn't want it to pass, but she could just put the vote in there just to give progressives a little something for them, a little flavor. She didn't take that chance, so we know who she is. Yeah. But as far as Bernie as a whole selling out, you know what? It's a wrap. He I don't want to say he's a sellout or anything, but he had his chance. Appreciate what he did, bringing the movement forward. But it's time for other people to step up. He could still endorse other candidates, help the progressives out. But his time as the head of this progressive movement is past.
Yeah, I think totally agree with Carlito there. It's Bernie started a movement in 2016, and he knew that the ads were going to be against him. So in 2020, we kind of expected a stronger Bernie. We knew that the media, the establishment, everybody was going to be against him, and 2020 felt like he just didn't fight as much as he did in 2016. So I totally agree that he definitely sold off for nothing in return. A task force that is not really going to give us anything in return. It's kind of like to put the name there just because you know how it is. Democrats, establishment always want to take progressive for granted. They always think that let's say we're working with Bernie and AOC and all those progressive leaders, and they're not really working. They're not really going to give us anything. But I think like Carlito said, it's time for us to get a new leader, trying for the progressive movement to really see who's going to be the next head, and someone that's not going to give in to the establishment, someone that's going to fight for an issue. Know that, hey, if you don't give us what we want, we're just going to take our people and we're just going to start our own party.
I mean, the military spending overall is probably one of the biggest issues of the progressive movement. If you look at us compared to other countries, I think everybody knows that we spend exponentially more than like the next 10 countries, most of which are our allies. So it's something where we have the military industrial complex, and that establishment is so powerful that it's almost impossible to get that down. Even like Carlito said, a symbolic vote to get it down, we can't even get that. Mm-hmm. So going with what John said, Bernie started the movement. He has shown himself to be not the strongest progressive. He's not able to fight back, and because of that, what's the point? If you're not going to fight back, if you're going to let them call you socialist, let them call you communist, let them say you have crazy dreams when your policies are considered moderate around the world, then he might as well have dropped out. And we have now 4 years to hopefully find who's going to be, not even 3 years at this point, so we can find somebody to pick up the mantle. It has to be somebody strong, somebody willing to fight fire with fire. When they call you a socialist, say that they're the ones doing corporate socialism. So I mean, it is a lot more than this one bill. If we talk about Bernie's weakness throughout this fight, he says he's an independent, and he's been an independent for 40 years on paper. But when it came down to it, he really wants to get the best of both worlds, working with the Democrats and keeping his position on leadership within the Democrats. And that turns out to be more important than keeping his friendships with Joe Biden. And that turns out to be more important than fighting for the rest of us and doing what was needed to win.
All right, Izzy?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with some of the others about, this particular bill. How much of a clown would Bernie look like if he were to say, okay, let's cut the military budget by 50% and take a vote on that? I mean, we all know what the outcome would have been. And I mean, he's just basically going to make himself look bad. He's going to make himself look like, he doesn't really care about politics. He doesn't really care about governing, because he's just throwing these crazy bills out there that he knows nobody would vote for. So, this 10% was the best we could even try for. It was obviously shot down by multiple Democrats, not just Kamala. I mean, even Duckworth. It had no chance of passing. So what's the point of going even higher than that? In terms of, Bernie, becoming more moderate or just kind of giving up. I mean, I'll be honest with you, the man is 78 years old. He's ran 2 presidential campaigns now. He's basically been rejected, you could argue the first time more by the establishment and by the media. But I mean, this time it was more about the people. The people, they just didn't come out for him. So at this point, he's at a point now where he's probably just like, I'm 78 years old. It's time to bow out, I think.
I think.
Go ahead. A quick point right there is, one difference that you will see, like, Chuck should have never brought this bill if he didn't have the vote for the Democrats. All of
interesting.
Meet together, So we know that Mitch McConnell wouldn't have done that, right?
Yeah.
Mitch McConnell would go backdoor. He would have made sure that all the GOP, regardless if they like it or don't like it, they were going to get behind it or they were going to get against it. Exactly. So Chuck, just to play nice, to say like, hey, I'm working with Bernie, went ahead and brought a bill to the table that he knew had no chance. So it's giving us nothing.
Go ahead,
so
Carlito.
Let me ask a question. So was this a bill just to throw Bernie a bone, or was it more to embarrass progressives and embarrass Bernie?
That's the question right there. That's where I would go. And with my original setup for this question, I think that Chuck Schumer was just throwing this vote out there. And honestly, I'm going to throw a conspiracy theory out there. I think this was a play for Kamala Harris to show, hey, to the establishment, I'm going to play ball. This whole time before this point, she was acting as if she was progressive. She was for Medicare for all, even though we know it was a joke the way she wanted to implement it, and all these other ways she was head faking that she was a progressive. Now that the moderate has won, I think this is her head fake, or not even head fake. This is her letting the establishment know that, hey, I'm going to play ball. Duckworth, like Izzy said, she is also playing ball, and she was in the military. She had her legs taken off. So I'm surprised that she's supporting the military in this particular way. So that's my personal conspiracy theory. And one other thing before we move on to the next topic, I remember back in 2007, Obama was running for president, and I was on the fence, or I was more of a Ron Paul fan back then. And I remember it wasn't until they had the telecom immunity law. It came to Congress for them to pass telecom immunity, and he voted for it. And this is my conspiracy theory. I think that was him back then saying, "Hey, I'm a good progressive. I'm a good Democrat. I'm gonna go along to get along. Here is me, a former professional constitutional law professor. You know, that's what did it for me. A professor who taught constitutional law is voting on a bill that will literally take away the First Amendment from people who, I don't know if do you guys remember that bill by any chance?
Oh yeah, I definitely remember it, because that's when it was clear in my head that Obama was not progressive at all.
Okay.
He was establishment through and through. I didn't think about a theory like yours that it was, you know, him trying to make a point. I thought it was just him just being him. Like, I'm not liberal at all.
Let's move on to the next topic. Nancy Pelosi versus Shahid Buttar. So she really flaked out on the debate. She didn't want to debate Shahid. What do you guys think about that? That's the first question. Carlito.
All I thought was like, come on, son.
Come on.
She's not gonna debate. Come on, man. In this political climate that we have right now, when, you know, Black Lives Matter and Medicare for all, you know, there's no way she was gonna debate and expose herself. You know? So she wasn't gonna do it.
There's no way she's going to like put herself out there. Because my man, he was going in. Like that's one thing I love about the guy. He goes straight through it. He goes straight at her. He definitely, you know, she's not going to put her record that we know for 30, 40 years that she's been in there, that someone is going to be like, oh, wait, there's somebody's out there in public putting this information. But but again, like, this is probably the first time that she faces someone that's actually going to at least give her something to think about. You know, she's been in there for centuries, and who knows how old she's been there for. You know what I mean? It's like she's been in there and no one ever like really challenged her. This is like, and we know it's gonna definitely be a long shot. We know for sure that he may have a shot, may not, but you know, anything is that she said already. I think she said that she's gonna retire after 2022.
I hope so.
There's talk that her daughter may take over. So we just need to start. This is just, we start now, and hopefully, you know, if we can't get it this year, 2022, we'll get it. And we just not have to deal with another Pelosi for another 50 years.
I think her daughter is actually more progressive than she is now. We don't have any legislative, proof to see how she would vote on certain things. But from what I understand, like her daughter is pretty progressive. She was on the DNC like as a delegate, or she was working behind the scenes, and she was one of the people, I believe, that helped push the super delegates to go to the second tier. So I'll be interested to see if she even runs for office. Go ahead, Gabe.
I was just gonna say that that we have to make her want to debate, and we haven't punished her enough for not showing up. I think when you
how can we do that?
When you see the AOC Crowley race, when at the beginning he didn't care to show up, and it wasn't until he got a ton of negative media from mainstream media. Like, of course, everybody was out there shaming him, but it got picked up by mainstream media that he didn't show up, he didn't care. There was also the angle of he didn't respect a Latina woman that showed up. So there was that angle, and the media just ran with it. In this case, it's the opposite. You know, she's an older woman, and I don't know if it plays well to say, well, she doesn't have the courage to go debate him. It's like, are you fighting against women? Why are you trying to throw her under the bus like that? So it's harder to get the mainstream media to pick up on that, but we have to just do our best to try to get it picked up. And if it gets picked up and gains momentum, that's the only way that he's going to have a shot in the race. As progressive as her state is, Nancy, it's going to be tough to get her. It's going to be tough to force her to debate unless she has to. Unless it gets negative press, she's not going to get out there.
Yeah, the media. We know mainstream media is not going to go against Pelosi.
That's the other thing that I was going to bring that up. She's got too much of there's a myth around her as being this strong progressive or leader, when on the first CARES Act, we got shafted. You know, there should have been a UBI, Universal Basic Income. There should have been Medicare for all during the COVID, and we literally got nothing. And I remember that CNN commercial. I'm sorry, I saw that CNN interview when Nancy Pelosi was talking to, I forgot if it was Jake Tapper, but basically she said, calm down.
So Cuomo says he would have insisted on state funding in the last bill. And now Senator McConnell is saying he wants to push the pause button.
Yes.
Was this a tactical mistake by you and Senator Schumer?
Just calm down. We will have state and local, and we will have it in a very significant way.
Izzy, jump in here.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say other
Okay.
than what everybody else has said. I mean, you know, the media is going to protect her like crazy, so it's just it's a non-starter at this point.
Hey, let me say something real quick, Case. Like one thing that the Crowley thing made me think about is that they shamed Crowley and AOC won. Possibly the media doesn't want the same thing to happen again. If they change Pelosi, they don't want her to lose. So maybe that's why they're not coming after her, because they don't want to make the same mistake again.
Totally. I remember.
Listen, the establishment rather have Trump win again than have Pelosi lose.
See, that's an interesting topic that I didn't even have here. If it was Bernie versus Trump, and you got the situation. See, 5 months ago, we couldn't even imagine what's going on now with COVID and with all the craziness going on with the Seattle and all this stuff, right? The protesting, and George Floyd. Right now in this moment, if we had Bernie Sanders as the Democratic nominee and Donald Trump, what do you think the media would be saying right now?
I think the media would, well, in public, they might say something similar to what, they're still going to bash Trump, but behind the scenes, they're still going to go for Trump, because we remember what happened, or what they were saying about Elizabeth Warren. The Wall Street people were saying about Warren, not even Bernie, about Warren. They said if Warren was to be the nominee, some of those big time donors for the Democratic Party will go to Trump instead. So imagine if it was Bernie, who's even more progressive than Warren.
Exactly. And I wonder if they would consider a third party, because remember, that was an early threat at the very beginning of this campaign, where we had people threatening to run third party. And I think, remember when Bernie was winning, they were all saying, oh, we don't have to commit, like we could go all the way to the convention. Remember at that time, that like second to last debate, they were talking about, oh, we could just let the process play out. That's what they said, let the process play out.
Should the person with the most delegates at the end of this primary season be the nominee, even if they are short of a majority?
Whatever the rules of the Democratic Party are.
But a convention working its will means that people have the delegates that are pledged to them, and they keep those delegates until you come to the convention. All of the people.
Process work its way out.
Let the process work.
So who knows if they would have tried to come up with some kind of scheme in that direction. Let's move on.
Not to mention, I mean, they would have brought out the whole book from Bernie, He's 78 years old, 4 years older than Trump. Can he really handle a whole term? And who knows where they would have gone with their standard for him? Can he win swing states? This and that. You know what I mean? Like it's a disaster for him.
Establishment and the Democratic Party rather lose to Trump than win with Bernie.
Definitely. Now let me ask you this question. I was thinking about this. Should Bernie have called Medicare new Obamacare? To kind of give a nod to Obama, because Obama, we have him on tape saying that Medicare for all is the optimal healthcare plan, but it's too hard. He said something like that. I'm paraphrasing. So if Bernie would have said, "Hey, look, here's a video or audio of Obama saying this. Medicare for all is the next step." The strategy of all the centrists, the strategy of all the moderates was to say, "Oh, we want to save Obamacare." What do you guys think about that? For Bernie to say this is the new Obamacare? Go ahead.
It didn't matter what Bernie called it, because they would figure out something. Like the media and even Obama himself in the background, they were working hard to make sure that Bernie. So the problem, again, we could even spend 3 days on this topic. The problem with Bernie was that he doesn't, Bernie's just a nice guy. He's a nice guy, and we know the nice guy always finish last. So he didn't have it within to fight. So that's just what's boiled down to.
I think Medicare for All was the perfect brand because Medicare is something that everyone loves.
Mm-hmm.
It's a universal program for people over 65. I think it's 66 now, and people love it. So it's the perfect brand. The problem was that the immediate attacks, with 5 years, 6 years of Bernie campaigning from 2016 until now, he just wasn't able to combat easily the most simple, easy to knock down counterpoints.
Yeah.
It would be like, well, it's gonna raise the taxes, and then he would talk for 10 minutes and wouldn't really get to the point. Like, it's gonna raise taxes. It's gonna lower your total spending. You're gonna spend a lot less. You're gonna get better quality. Like, they call it socialist. I mean, it's definitely not socialist at all.
Mm-hmm.
He calls himself socialist. So I think it was the perfect brand, the wrong messenger.
Gotcha.
I agree with Gabe about the long-windedness of Bernie when answering questions that he could have. We know how the attention span is, and politics is about sound bites. But I'm a little surprised by your answer, Gabe, because especially with like the socialism part that you mentioned and branding, I would think that call it whatever you want, call it new Obamacare. I don't care as long as the details are in there. I thought you would agree with that. Because as long as the guts are the same, the branding is whatever it will get it to get passed. And I think calling it new Obamacare, although I agree with you, Medicare for All is already great, but if you call it new Obamacare, Obama could not fight against it. Maybe behind the scenes he still would, because his former donors and the DNC donors are the same people that will get hurt by having Medicare for All. But if the public embraces, we know that the public likes Obamacare. If the public embraces it, Obama couldn't be out front about it. Anything that's negative about it would have to be behind the scenes.
I would disagree with the public really like Obamacare.
One of the most polarizing issues.
Well, I mean,
if you just having Obamacare on it, you already lost half of the country.
No,
that's what's the GOP won on. The GOP won on getting rid of Obamacare
back in 2012.
This is about primaries, though. This is about primaries.
But Obamacare is popular now, though. Back then it was not popular. Now it is actually.
Yeah, if Bernie wins the primaries, I mean, who cares what Republicans think at the time? I mean, we know we want them, and we want everybody, we want the whole country together. But the way to win elections, you got to win your primary first.
Yeah.
When you poll what are the most popular healthcare plans in the entire country, is Medicare first, Medicaid second, and VA third. So there's no private healthcare plan. There's no Obamacare is not listed in that. So it's the perfect brand.
But the brand again goes back. The brand didn't care because the media was going to find something.
Mm-hmm.
The CNN, MSNBC of the world, they were going to find something to go against it.
Now this is my point, real quick, John. I agree with you only because I'm going to bring up this point. When Michael Bloomberg had a commercial hugging Barack Obama, pretty much. He had Barack Obama was all over the ad. Peeps, nothing. It was crickets from the media. When Bernie did it, months later, after South Carolina, when he realized, okay, I got to get my black vote up, he used it. Boom. The media was all over him saying that it was a edited video, that Obama didn't really endorse him. They just edited some videos with him hugging Obama, whatever.
You've taken the former president's voice from different settings and edited that together, and you give the impression that President Obama's a Bernie guy. How is that not misleading?
I don't think it's misleading. They're President Obama's words about Bernie Sanders.
All right, that's disingenuous. That's disingenuous.
Is it disingenuous? They are his words about Bernie Sanders. How is that disingenuous?
Words taken from literally, as I understand it, 3 or 4 different speeches over a span of
Are they not? They're words about
5 or 6 years.
They are words about Bernie Sanders. So how is that disingenuous? Are they not words about Bernie Sanders?
So I agree with you that the media would try to spit it a certain way. Izzy.
I mean,
I'm sorry, Carlito. Go ahead. Go ahead, Carlito.
Yeah, I think they would have, but I think if you call in Obamacare, I mean, the whole Biden campaign is about attaching himself to the Obama years. Mm-hmm. So that would have helped South Carolina or somewhere to get some votes out if it would have embraced it earlier. early in the campaign. It would have really helped them with with some of the Obama voters.
I think it's something to think about. You never know. Izzy, you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree that the meat of the policy is the meat of the policy, and it doesn't matter what you call it. I mean, the first question, okay, well, who does this hurt? Is this going to get rid of all insurance companies right off the bat? I mean, right then and there, you lose all the establishment support. So it's call it whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. The meat of the policy is still the same, so you're still going to have the same outcome.
I want to show you guys this classic case study tweet.
In South Carolina, they gave Vice President Biden a distinctive win. And now, with zero facts to back it up, there are voices saying, well, those black voters just backed Joe because they didn't have enough information.
But what I do not believe, Stephanie, and this is very clear, is that these folks are low information voters.
Biden has recently said that he was arrested on his way to meet Nelson Mandela against apartheid. That turned out to be not true. He also has said that he fought for civil rights. That also turned out to not be true. Do those things concern you?
Well, I haven't heard that, but I'm sure that would concern me. That would concern me.
Sure, understandably, again.
Yeah, that is a concern. I have to do a little more research and I have a little more time. But yeah, I hadn't heard of that.
Of course, and I think probably the majority of people haven't, so that's why we ask these questions.
Yeah, classic case study QB clip from back in the good old days when we were in a nightmare that we're in now. But what you
like and retweet.
Yeah. What you guys think about that? Go ahead, Gabe. Go ahead. Who wants to take this first?
I'll say that black voters are not any less informed than any other voters across the country, right? I mean, let's just be honest about that. As a country as a whole, we're mostly watching mainstream media. We're not really that well informed. I'll be honest with you. So it's not that this is a black people problem, that black people are not as informed as they should be. There's no doubt that they weren't as informed as they should be, but it's not a Southern problem. It's not a black people problem. It's all across the country. So of course things like this are going to happen when you have a voter block that just, they don't really understand the issues. They don't really understand the standpoints of the candidates. And yeah, I mean, they certainly don't understand the shortcomings of Biden.
So do we blame the media? It sounds to me like it's a educational issue. What you guys?
A narrative, right? It's a narrative, right? Like you sit people there and they sit on CNN and MSNBC. We all know Biden ran on Obama's name, right? So you have people think that Obama's the greatest president ever. And all Obama, the one good thing Obama had was he was just a great speaker. He makes you believe what he was selling. But when it came to policy, he really didn't do anything for the Latino or the African American community. Like he really let us down. So it comes down to that. When you go out there and you ask, people will tell you that Obama was great. So Biden was Obama's vice president. So if you look at it, in the African American community with the older population, Biden was doing great. Bernie wasn't able to do anything. But when the Latino population, Latino voters, it was the complete opposite. But like Izzy said, it has nothing to do with race. It's more the narrative. If you sit there and watch CNN for 24 hours today, MSNBC, you're just gonna get points. You're just gonna, whatever they say is what you're gonna believe.
Gabe,
it's 100% the media. You can't blame the voter. Black voters are no different than any other voters. Everyone's working hard. Everyone's working 2-3 jobs to try to survive, working overtime, trying to do everything they can. They're just focused on surviving. We're the name of this panel is political junkies. No, there's not that many of us. It's really us that we're into the weeds on policy, into the weeds on people's past votes, and we're thinking back to Biden of the 90s and of the 80s of when he's run his multiple presidential campaigns and failed and lied and plagiarized. And so we know this. It's up to the media to educate the general populace on those failures and shortcomings. And you just have to look at, why is it that they don't bring up these things? Because again, the narrative has been Trump is the worst thing to ever happen to the United States. He's a dictator, he's Hitler, he's this, he's that, and that's the media narrative. So people are scared. You ask why are they voting for Biden? Not many of them are voting for Biden. They're voting against Trump. It's the same gamble they took last time with Hillary. and they lost last time on that gamble. But based on the polling this time and the timing of this virus, I think that in the polls, it really looks like they're going to win that gamble this time. So it's just tough. They're willing to gamble with our democracy against who they call the greatest threat to our country. And I think our greatest threat is the Democrats that don't fight against that opposition.
All right, Carlito.
From all the points, I think one important thing that we all know is that name recognition carries a lot of weight. So people just know Biden because it's been on the scene for so many years.
Yeah.
So they know him. Maybe they trust him, maybe they don't, but at least they know who it is. And that's why, for me, the number one issue in politics is the money involved in it, and that's why they spend so much time fundraising, so they could put all those ads out there and send the mailers and put their name out. Because if you don't have the money, you can't put yourself out there for people to get to know you. Because we know, like Gabe said, people are just busy. They got lives. They're not all political junkies. So Biden had a leg up just being a brand name out there, and I think that's one of the reasons why he was, even though his campaign was trash at the beginning. Really, he was still polling decently well. South Carolina changed the whole thing, but it was all because name recognition first.
Yeah, but if you look at the narrative of if you look, and I was watching CNN when it was happening, when Biden was like left for dead. I forgot the guy's name. All they kept saying was, wait for South Carolina. Wait for South Carolina. South Carolina is going to tell us everything we need to know. Wait for South Carolina. So even when they were losing, even when like Bernie was like winning, they were talking about the fourth place folks that were playing, the second place. So they kept saying, and it was like Biden, 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 Biden. So they continually kept telling people, Biden.
Yeah, I agree 100%. But also, Biden was spending money in South Carolina when Bernie wasn't. We read some of the postmortems from the campaign, and there were people inside the Bernie campaign that were like, hey, we got to reach out to all the leaders in South Carolina. We got to spend money on mailers out there. We got to, they put a couple radio ads or whatever, but they didn't put the kind of effort that Biden did, even though he had money. But Biden just put, he was making himself known in South Carolina.
Well,
so
he had Clyburn
the narrative
too.
Was there. It was also the money and the name recognition that he had out there.
I think that endorsement is from Clyburn. Really put it over the top too. Yeah, that was huge. All right, so I want to ask you guys each, what's your favorite source of getting the news? Whether it's from an indie commentator like TYT, Kyle Kalinske, Nico House, any of these guys, or if it's reading a newspaper or any online publications. Start with Carlito.
Case Study QB.
Hey, there we go. Yeah, go ahead, my man.
I mean, I do a lot of mostly YouTube, and I don't watch the the mainstream media, but I read the websites, CNN, MSNBC, even Fox News, and some right-wing places, just to see what they're saying. But it's mostly independents and YouTubers.
Any particular one that you really, really like you have to go to their channel, like Ryzen or anybody?
Yeah, I like Ryzen. I really like Kyle Kalinske, because he's I like his aggressive style. It's not he's not afraid. He's the kind of guy that he'll just say how it is, and I like that.
All right, John, go ahead.
The same thing. I'm on Twitter a lot, so I follow a lot of, I was saying I try to get what people are tweeting about, recent news, recent article. I like my man over there. I think it's a proud socialist. I think his name's Ryan Knight, I believe.
Oh yeah.
I follow him. He I love the fact that he always calling out the DMC, and he's someone that used to be like me too, right? Talked about that. We thought that the Democrats were really the party of the people and that they were for us. And he woke up and saw that it's not really true. So he became a progressive. So that, YouTube as well. And then we're amongst ourselves, we share informations and we know. But sometimes, like Carlito said, sometimes I put 3 TV up and I have CNN, MSNBC, and Fox. And it's hilarious to see how they deliver the news and the narrative that they want people to actually believe. So,
gotcha. Good. Go ahead, Gabe.
Go to Izzy first.
Okay, Izzy.
So what I would say is that I like to separate out the news from the political commentary. So, news specifically, I like to just go to the source. I like to, find out the information without the political bias. So I go to places like NPR, I go to places like Reuters and Associated Press. Just give me the news, just give me the facts without the political commentary. But as for political commentary, I do really like David Dole, the Rational National, as Gabe throws up his air quotes. I think he's great at staying not in the middle, but just staying really rational with his responses to the news, and obviously still very anti-establishment, very progressive, but giving you more of the facts without so much of the sentiment, the feeling behind. It's sometimes getting a little bit irrational, which is what some of these political commentators do. That's what I like about David, though. He's more even keeled.
Gotcha. Go ahead, Gabe.
For me, these guys touched on most of them, but the one they didn't touch on is Jimmy Dore.
Oh, Jimmy Dore!
Under Jimmy Dore, I'd also include, the rest of the Jimmy Dore squad. You got Steph Zamorano, you have Robert Capone, Graham Elwood, everybody under that, hashtag progressive team. They're the ones that have been calling out things like, they're the ones who educated me that Al Gore actually won Florida in the recount. Yep. I had no idea of that. I've gone my whole life without knowing that. They're the ones who have said things. They taught me a lot about false flag operations that our government does. They're the ones calling out, calling out the establishment and saying a lot of things that other people aren't scared to say. Do they get a little crazy sometimes? Yeah, why not? But that's also fun. It's also fun. I challenge people to find malicious lies that they would say. Have they ever said malicious lies? Do they get stuff wrong? Of course. The guy's a comedian. The guy is not a Harvard educated, but how many times are those Harvard educated news pundits intentionally lying to you, intentionally telling things that they know is false, like Medicare for all costs more money than it. So you're getting that from people that are supposedly great news sources. Jimmy Dore is the first one to say, I'm a jag-off comedian. Yeah. So how you guys are listening to me, and I'm not the expert, but there's certain things that I could see 100% clearly. And there's a lot of things that he'll call out that he's leading on when other people, he's talking about Snowden being locked up. He's talking, or not Snowden, he's talking about Chelsea Manning being locked up when a lot of people weren't talking about it. He's just really going through a lot of the progressive issues that other people are either scared to touch or they're scared to have those hot takes on. So that's why, of course, when Rising comes on and when Rational National and when Kyle Kalinske videos come on, I'm going to watch all of those. But I just wanted to give a special shout out to the
It's there's three sources that I want to mention that, that I like. One, even though I don't always agree with Glenn Greenwald, I like the NSF. Good. A place that gives me, straight news that I don't see in a lot of places is Democracy Now! That's a good one that I like. And then I like ProPublica. They get into the deep stuff that, in-depth journalism that, it takes money that and a lot of people are not doing, and I really commend them for doing that.
I also like, what's their name? Useful Idiots with the Rolling Stone podcast. Katie Halper and Matt Taibbi. Yeah. Great podcast. They just started a few months ago. Yeah. It's been tremendous guests that they've had on. And also I like Dr. Richard Wolff a lot. Yeah. He's the one that turned me on to, worker-owned co-ops and things like that. So there's a lot of great sources and resources. We could be here all day just talking about.
I'm just going to mention that or touch on what you just said with Richard Wolff. That one thing I really like about him, for people who don't know, he's a Marxist professor, and one thing that he said that really has been sticking in my mind lately. Everyone remembers FDR as a big progressive president, but a little known history about that was what was called the New Deal Coalition. And that New Deal Coalition comprised of one communist party and two socialist parties. I say party, but organizations, two different socialist organizations. And together they had enough strength, and they came together, all three of those organizations, to push FDR to do the New Deal, Social Security and all the progressive programs that he eventually did. So that was something that Richard Wolff put me on to, that I thought that's something that we're missing today. I think it's growing, but not fast enough. We have a lot of independent news that we just mentioned, and they've been educating us. The next step is for the people to get to the streets. And still, like lately, we've seen a lot of movement in the streets, but has it gone? And I love seeing it for Black Lives Matter and for Black issues. But I'm looking forward to seeing. And the first step that I saw, the first sign of that was the strike for Black lives. I saw that protest, and that was more in the direction of economic striking and economic issues. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that is going to get covered by the media. That's going to get tackled by the politicians. And hopefully we could start putting some real pressure on our government. All right, I'm going to go to a video again.
Shout out to MCSC Network, Nico House.
Yeah, definitely shout out to my man, Nico House, Convo Couch.
Shout out to my girl, Nina Turner. Have you guys seen the podcast? Hello, somebody.
Yeah, Nina Turner. Yeah, my father loves some Nina Turner. But definitely,
I love that girl.
Yeah.
For many American families across our country, and the fact that you have the majority of Congress, whether it's the House or the Senate, be millionaires, makes it that these are folks who are not really fluent in the day-to-day struggles of the people that they represent, and we have to change that.
Boom! I just wanted to play that real quick. I was like, did anybody just hear what I just heard? Like when I was watching that live, that she said that majority of people in Congress are millionaires and we need to change them. Man, what do you guys think about that?
Absolutely. Like, there's no, like, how do these, we always talked about how do these people being in public service, right? I'm a public service employee, and you go in there and you spend 30 years of your life and you are worth millions and millions and millions, right? I think I may be wrong, son, but Mitch McConnell, the richer senator in the Senate, but Kentucky's like always at the bottom for education and anything else that you could think of. So how do these people are making their money? Like, what deals are they doing that they're making that they are worth so much money? I think even going back to Pelosi, right? Pelosi is worth what, 25 million, 30 million or something like that, all on real estate and everything that's happening. So where's all this money? But we don't really ever ask as a nation. You know, we talked about voters being educated and being able to do the, you know, the research that we need and ask those type of questions. Like, how do you become a multi-millionaires in a public service position?
John, you were off by 100 million.
I'm sorry.
120 million. I think. I mean, the problem Carlos said earlier, that it's money in politics. I've been flirting with the idea of potentially thinking about running for a rep in my district, and when I start talking around, like, okay, so what is the amount that you can raise? Is always the first amount. Is always the first questions. So can you raise $800,000? Can you raise $2 million? And that's the ultimate hurdle you have to crush. I know I could raise several tens of thousands of dollars, but is that going to be enough to beat the establishment? Probably not. You know, my representative here is a millionaire, former healthcare executive. So it's kind of like, well, how are you going to beat that? You're starting the race from from a marathon behind, not even miles behind. So that, I mean, once you get money out of politics and once you have a level playing field, if you get equal positions, you should have equal rights to get your thoughts out there, equal rights to debates, and we should have publicly financed elections.
Gotcha. So we're gonna start wrapping this up a little bit.
Shout out to Joyanne Reed, to you, Madame, for being pro Medicare for all before.
Oh, I do. I have that. Yeah. I have that video actually queued up. I was going to give her a break, but actually, you know what? That video went viral. It was my latest video on Case Study QB that totally went viral. So let me bring that up real quick, and I do have it queued up right here.
specifically. But healthcare, you tweeted something about healthcare that I had to retweet you with comment because it moved me. You tweeted, explain to me how you could live through the COVID-19 crisis and not support Medicare for all. There's no doubt that in just any just and decent society, COVID testing, treatment, and vaccines, when we have one, should be free. And I retweeted you that, I was myself a skeptic on Medicare for all. Back when the Affordable Care Act was being negotiated, some people said, no, do Medicare for all. And I thought, well, how will doctors get paid and how will union workers, that have negotiated these contracts? I had skepticism about it too, but I, like you, or you've already been there, I've looked at this crisis and thought, there's a story that people who are uninsured, who get tested and treated for COVID-19
All right.
can be.
I want to show this video also real quick because we know Ayanna Pressley, right, as a Justice Democrat, and she's one of the squad, but I just want to show you guys this for my Bernie bros out there.
I have to say, in terms of this debate, it really does agitate me. I don't know if there was some sort of secret meeting of progressives that determined what defines a progressive. And I'm really tired of people sort of trying to mansplain to me what that is. I am an unapologetic progressive. I know what a progressive looks like, and I know what they do.
Really?
And you cannot do in 3 days or 30 days what Secretary Clinton has been doing for 30 years. She is a progressive.
Really?
It is being a progressive to fight for workers' rights, to fight for LGBT rights, to fight for women's rights, to fight for civil rights, to fight for voting rights. She is a progressive. So I'm tired of people trying to mansplain this away. She's made the case for herself.
So those are all low-hanging fruits that she just mentioned. There was no Medicare for all. Of course, the Green New Deal wasn't really popular at that point, but I'm talking about things that the party is at least the establishment is trying not to have it happen. She didn't mention any of those. Everything she just mentioned, everybody is for. Anybody want to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, no Medicare for all, no real criminal justice reform.
Exactly.
No real climate change initiatives. I know you said, the Green New Deal wasn't really big back then, but still, I mean, we needed it back then just as much as we needed it now.
Exactly. All right, so the last thing that we're going to talk about, this is the part where we're going to, amongst ourselves, we're going to save the world, all right? This is called the Think Tank part of the podcast, the Political Junkies, where we come up with bright ideas that we're going to put into the ether. And then when Gay runs for office, he's going to champion it like how Bernie championed Medicare for all and how AOC championed the Green New Deal. So this is my idea. Matter of fact, next time I'm going to let you guys come up with your own ideas, but this is my idea to save the world, all right? It's called the war tax. What does the war tax do? Now, America right now, we haven't even declared war since World War II, but we have been committing acts of war for many, many years, generations, and as recent as drones being dropped down on innocent brown people all around the world. So my war tax would have to be a constitutional amendment. Otherwise, it can be taken away like Glass-Steagall was taken away under Bill Clinton. It has to be a constitutional amendment, which is hard to overturn. And basically what it says, when America commits any act of war, that automatically means that we have declared war. Therefore, we now have to do a war tax. And I was thinking about it to myself, and we could discuss it. The main part of it was the 1%, their taxes go up 90%. Bam. Because a lot of times they're the ones that profit from us going to war. So I say, if we go to war, you guys got to bear the brunt of the cost. Your taxes go up 90%. But the people, normal people probably should get taxed, or on their checks, there should be a war tax that you can see it. Every time you get paid, you see this war tax. So that builds sentiment among the people to say, hey, why are we still in this war? Like, why are we still in Afghanistan? Why are we bombing people in, I believe, Somalia or in Africa? It's crazy. What do you guys think about that?
I think that's more of a marketing thing. I think right now we already spend about 25% of our taxes on the military already. Yeah. So it would have to be a pretty steep tax to throw on top of there to bring, because right now people are paying and they might not even realize they're spending 25% of their taxes on the military. So we have to get better at making that point. And if this were to go into effect, making it significant enough that people would feel it. Is it going to be another 10% on top of that where people would go, whoa, and really reevaluate? But, you know, if you look at 9/11, when 9/11 happened, I think everybody would have been willing to pay whatever war tax to get revenge.
Yes.
Now, in hindsight, 2020, we realized we spent trillions of dollars on those wars that probably, you know, we could have not done that and been in the same position or even better than we are now. But, you know, that's a whole other chat for another day.
Gotcha.
Okay, what about the idea then that, you know, maybe there's a better breakdown then on where our taxes go? Like, let's say, you know, you said 25% for the military. What about there's a threshold where anything above, you know, X amount of percentage that gets spent on a certain program or whatever shows up in your taxes? Like, you know, as you see your pay statement, you know, 25% of that is going to the military. You know, we already have, you know, the federal breakdown, the federal withholding, Medicare, Social Security. Okay, military is 25%. That has to show up there too.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know, but they're not going to give us that. They do not want. We know that it goes back to the topic we discussed earlier, right? They do not want educator voter because they know that the more that we get educated and the more that we realize how messed up our country is and how those politicians are, the less chance they're going to have to stay in office. So they're going to do everything they can not to educate those folks that are not political educated.
I just want to throw again, don't lose sight of the part where I said that I want the 1% to really, it would be a progressive tax. So whether it's 25, and I'm just throwing out a number. I don't know it's the exact number, but whether it's like 25% for regular people, like people who make under $300,000, but people who are in the 1%, if there's some kind of bracket or whatever they made above $10 million gets taxed at 90%. I would even argue that they would make sure that we don't go to war. You know, with their power, they would be like, no, I think we're good with those people in Afghanistan. I think we're cool. I think kumbaya, peace to everybody. Even if 9/11 happened again tomorrow, God forbid, they would be like, hey, peace, send white doves up in the air. You know, they'll spend their money to make sure that they don't get taxed that amount. What you guys think about that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, maybe. I mean, it depends where they get their money from. They still come out ahead if they're like CEO of Raytheon or something.
See, that's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah,
but I like tangible things, but I also like symbolic things. And I think just having it on the paycheck, it lets people know where the money's going towards, and just having it there is just going to make people think twice. As far as the 1%, they wouldn't go for it. I mean, they wouldn't go for it regardless. But I want to flip it a little bit.
Okay.
You know, what if it says 20% is going towards food stamps?
That's interesting.
Or, you know, something that, you know, right wingers would be like, oh, I don't want my money given to poor people or whatever.
Like, look at that amount. It's gonna be like this much to food stamps. It's gonna be
and that's my point, right? Like make the threshold a certain amount so that anything above that threshold is what really shows up on your paycheck. Anything like we're talking about food stamps, that's not even going to register on the list of all the money we spend.
But I agree with you. I think when I look at my paycheck and I see a certain amount going to Medicare, a certain amount going to different other programs, I look at it and I'm like, I could have used that $100, but I know that it's going to my future. If it's going to Social Security or whatever, I know I can see it and say, okay, it's going somewhere productive, right? But
we're gonna have that though. We're gonna have that by the time we retire.
That's another topic for another day. But at least I'm seeing that it's supposed to be going towards something more productive. But if I see $100 going towards war tax, $200 going towards a war tax, I'm like, wait, what are we bombing right now? You know, and then I might call up my congresswoman and say, hey, what's going on with this? You know, so
even in the case of 9/11, everybody would have been gung-ho about it, but then 20 years go by and be like, we still paying for that?
Yeah,
what's going on?
I was thinking about that too. Yeah, exactly. At some point, the appetite for war, even now, I think the appetite for war, sending your kids to war, has definitely dramatically some people voted for Trump because he said he was going to get us out of these wars, which he hasn't, you know. Yeah. All right, anybody else before we wrap it up? All right, fellas, this was fun. I hope everybody had some fun, and I hope someone learned something new. How do we make voters smarter? Anybody got any ideas, anything to what can help make voters smarter before we leave? I'll start it off real quick. In one of my previous case studies, I just want to keep hammering this home. I think that if your incumbent, the person that's already in office, if they don't respect you enough to debate their challenger, you should not give them your vote. How different would it be in Congress if everybody who did not debate their challenger did not get your vote? We would have a lot more change. Anybody else have any ideas? Make voters a little bit smarter.
I say, just look your politician up, go back on their records, see what they have done. Always stop believing that just because someone has a Democrat next to them, they just going to be for brown and black people. I know we are in a time that, everything is, it's against Trump and stuff like that. But look, start at the local level. Yeah. The local politicians are the one that really affecting everything that's happening. And once we start making changes at the local level, we'll be able to affect the national level. So just continue to ask questions. Go to the town hall meeting. Go attend the live thing the live stream that they may do. And ask them questions. Don't be afraid to ask your politician. Email them and say how this policy you voted for affect me, and based on that, make a decision who you're going to vote for.
All right. Anybody?
Yeah,
cool.
I would put it back on the people. I mean, for many decades, probably the course of our entire lives, everybody on this call, we've been able to live pretty comfortably without really having to know too much about politics, about too much about our representatives. And, that's changed now. So those days are over. We don't have that luxury anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's really imperative that, like I said, I'm going to put it back on the people. Spend 15 minutes less on TikTok, on Instagram, and check out some of these resources that we all gave you. And 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day. Just try to get informed. Every morning I wake up to a 5-minute recap of the news. That's my alarm clock, literally. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't hurt to just make those small changes so that you can be more informed and make better decisions.
All right. This is Case Study QB. These are the political junkies. And just to give you a teaser, the next time we do our podcast, I'm going to bring up the topic, the mini case study of the fallen Justice Democrat. Who is the fallen Justice Democrat? All right. Look forward to that on the next time. Everybody have a good one. Everybody say adios.
Adios.
Adios. Gracias.